So thanks for the invitation to come and chat at this today, and thanks for the talks, have been really fascinating. So I'm Brian Mac Namee. I work in University College Dublin, where Derek works as well in the School of Computer Science. And one thing that struck me when I first came to look at Curatr was it was a really good counterexample to this. This is a phrase that Derek might have heard me use a lot of times before, is the idea of a laptop in the wrong shoes. So there's a real mistake that we can make as technologists, where particularly with data analytics, it's very easy to jump into other domains and turn up with your laptop and the wrong shoes and say, look here, I can solve this, and to make a complete bags of it. There's a whole raft of really badly made data analytics tools where people like me have shown up and said, you know, let me fix this. And I thought Curatr really jumped out at me as a great example of not doing this. And you can really see the evidence of the collaboration and the sort of co-creation. One of the things that we talk a lot about in data analytics is this idea of democratization of data and democratization of tools. And some people will come at this and say, well, we just need to teach everybody to program. And if we teach everybody to program, they'll all be able to do all these things themselves, and everyone will be free to do what they like with our data and will be equally empowered with the data. And I think there's lots of examples we found that that's not true. Even though there's still a lot of that, and there's still great value in learning how to program. There's a lot of problems with that, because just the level of effort that's required to get something off the ground, and the level of wasted sort of repetition of the same work again and again and again. And I think a tool like Curatr is a good example of, for me, of doing this really well, of looking at particular needs of a particular group and designing a good tool to address that. And then I think the interesting thing, and this the interesting idea for me in the back of my mind, listening to the discussion here, is the delicacy now of figuring out, well, what will this tool do and what will this tool not do? Because every time you put a tool, there's now a whole lot of ideas. Oh, well, if I had a button to do this and a button to do that and a button to do another thing. And there's a real sweet spot down that road where you get the right amount of functionality, but you don't turn into this huge Swiss Army knife that does everything. So it's kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see the evolution of the tool through that. The other thing that then struck me about open source and contributions was maybe something that maybe came up in some of the previous discussion, but might be an interesting place to look, would be, is there a role for Curatr as a sort of a platform for open source contributions into this community? So it struck me playing with it. I was making some lexicons, and halfway through making my lexicon for sport, I was thinking, well, probably someone better at this might have made a lexicon for sport already. And is there a way to contribute those things so people can sort of take advantage of those? That might be interesting. And then other bits and pieces that people have found. OCR has come up a lot. I presume there's lots of correction of OCR errors that goes on and then gets lost in one person's analysis that everybody else doesn't get to take advantage of. And then the last thing is that, I guess, in terms of democratization community, are the sort of the roadblocks and the walled gardens type things. And I think this is the other danger with a tool like this, that inevitably in every possible tool there'll be something somebody wants to do and they'll get stuck that the tool doesn't support that. And then there's a question of, well, how do you maybe empower them to get the data out of the tool? So JSON was mentioned, and databases or data downloads were mentioned. I think that's a real interesting challenge to get right again. So how do you kind of, inevitably people are going to hit the roadblocks, how do you maybe help them get over that roadblock some way?